dreams away. Can't take my dreams away. Can't take my dreams away. Can't take my dreams away. I have dreamed on this mountain since first I was my mother's daughter, and you can't just take my dreams away. Not with me watching, you may drive a big machine, but I was born a great big woman, and you can't just take my dreams away without me fighting this old mountain raised by many daughters. Some died young, some still living, but if you come here to be taken down mountains, we can't come here to give it. I have dreamed on this mountain since first I was my mother's daughter, and you can't just take my dreams away. Not with me watching, no, you can't just take my dreams away without me fighting. No, you can't just take my dreams away. Can't take my dreams away. Can't take my dreams away. Can't take my dreams away.
Welcome, and one of the other luminaries who have joined us is Minnie. She's here with today. We walked here together. I'm Michelle Smith. Welcome. I'm the one of the volunteer co-founders for the Linking Waters Project, which is demonstrating the power of reclaiming urban water for jobs, environment, and food. I'm thrilled to be here. Moving Planet Asheville is one of thousands of Moving Planet events around the world. We're bringing people out to the streets, demanding action on global climate change. This is a truly collaborative event from a broad coalition of groups from Western North Carolina, including the Canary Coalition, the Sierra Club, Transition Asheville, the UN Association, the Western North Carolina Chapter, and Western North Carolina Alliance. I see folks from lots of other groups represented here too. I see Blue Ridge Sustainability Institute. I see Sarah Day from the North Carolina Sustainable Energy Association. And this kind of collaboration is what creates a global movement. So no matter where you are, just know that you are part of something much, much bigger than the small organization you're part of. This is the kickoff event, and including this event, there are 3 venues for Moving Planet Asheville, including the Burton Street Center and the UNCA. And then Asheville on Bikes is going to be leading a caravan throughout the day to all of those venues. So we really encourage those of you who are going around Moving Planet to walk or ride your bike or take the bus. Or you can walk and ride the bike and take the bus, because our buses have bike racks on them. So that makes it really much more accessible to ride your bike. The focus of Moving Planet Asheville is on how we here in Asheville can move the world beyond fossil fuel and help address the climate crisis. And Washington is apparently very busy with more important things than the global climate crisis. So here in Asheville, we are going to have to take the lead. And luckily, as you'll see today, we are well positioned to do that because we have lots of support for that. So let's give Asheville a hand. Do we have local candidates here today? One of them? And what's your, 3 of them. I would like, come forward. Come forward. I know that y'all have ideas about those local solutions, and I'm just going to let you introduce yourself so that the people here can put a name with the face as this election cycle comes along.
Hi, I'm Lael Gray.
And what are you running for, Lael?
Oh, I'm running for City Council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Chris Pelley, and I'm running for Asheville City Council.
Welcome. Thank you so much.
Mark is here somewhere.
Mark Hunt is also here. So those people are running for City Council. Please find out more about them so that you can be an informed voter. So the next person I want to introduce is Julie Mayfield. She is the Executive Director of Western North Carolina Alliance, who has started off this day with a transportation planning basics workshop. Transportation can be a complex issue, and Western North Carolina took the lead on helping to bring that down to the ground. So come on forward, Julie. Welcome. I want to ask you, I'm just going to kind of ask you a question you can answer. Tell me about Western North Carolina's Alliance's role right now in creating and supporting those local solutions to the global climate change.
We do that on several levels. We do it by encouraging people to change their own behavior and be part of inventing multimodal solutions and using multimodal solutions. We also work at a policy level to make sure that the projects and policies exist that we want, that will drive multimodal solutions, and that the funding exists to do that as well.
What is a multimodal solution?
Sorry. Multimodal. Multi meaning many, modal meaning, I'm going to make it up, travel, ways, thank you. Many ways. So multimodal would be walking, biking, transit, cars, trains, buses, all sorts of different options about how we get around.
Thank you. And are there ways that here in the local community and today that we can support that effort?
There are. So again, starting with the what can you do, you can get on the bus, you can get on your bike, you can get on your feet and walk around. We have all of those things available here. Sometimes they're not as easy as we want them to be, but you know, my commute takes twice as long by bus as in my car, but it's an important thing to do, so you do it. You know, we just need to adjust our behavior sometimes in ways that aren't necessarily always hugely convenient. We also can support at the city level, at the county level, and then at the regional MPO level, which we just learned about, projects, multimodal projects, and again, funding for multimodal projects. And all of that is really, as we learned in there, complicated, and particularly at the regional level, very complicated, very difficult to figure out how individuals can influence that process, but we have to.
I have to say that when I ride the bus, I really enjoy the increase in my reading time. So I find it actually in many ways very relaxing and less stressful because I don't have to park and I don't have to do all that stuff. Thank you so much for being part of Moving Planet Asheville. Julie? Thank you so much. And Western North Carolina Alliance is doing a lot all over the region and really appreciate everything they do and their leadership on this issue. Next speaker we have is Holly Jones. She is a Buncombe County Commissioner. Come forward, Holly. Put your cheat notes right there. And I'll ask you just the same question. How is Buncombe County playing a role in helping to create and support local solutions to the global climate crisis and moving away from fossil fuels?
Well, I think the first thing that we're doing is that, I'm so used to having a loud voice, but we are currently in the process of completing our sustainability plan. And so a big shout out to City of Asheville because they kind of launched and have been great leaders in kind of collecting a plan that looks pretty far into the future. So we're using the same group to do that plan. We also have begun to do some benchmarking to actually measure in numbers what is our carbon footprint, because when I first became elected in 2008, I was pleasantly surprised that Buncombe County was doing all this stuff, particularly around energy efficiency. You know, spending thousands and thousands of dollars, for example, on changing out the windows in the courthouse, knowing that that long-term investment would come back in X number of years. The primary motivation at that point was money. You know, it was smart use of taxpayer dollars. Now we also know that the responsibility we have in our community in terms of the globe as well. So we've now measured it, and that was kind of a scary thing for our staff to do, but we found out so much good data. Can I keep on rolling?
Go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so we found out that our buildings, and for people that follow this stuff all the time, this won't be any, you know, like, oh, really, surprise. But our buildings are 60% of our carbon emissions. And we have like 1.5 million square feet. But kind of plugging away, over the last 5 years, we've reduced that, the BTUs per square foot by 28%. I think our average, yeah, that's really good stuff. And so I think our average in 2010 was 64,000 BTUs per square foot. Does that make sense? The average evidently is 90,000 per square foot. So we're below the national average. And kind of a sad fact about our community is that state buildings are about 135,000 per square foot. So the state's got a ways to go too. But we know, and we're not there. We've got other things to do. We also measured what we do in our fleets, and we've got our mileage down, and we absolutely have converted some of our vehicles to alternative usage of fuels. But we've got some road to travel, in that regard. The other thing that we now know that's a big part of our carbon footprint, not nearly as much as buildings, is our employee mileage travel. And that's something that we really need to start taking a bite out of. But we know, so that's knowledge is the first thing. So I'm really excited about some solar panels that are going up on a building or two. When it's time to re-roof the jail, we're going to put solar thermal on the jail because there's so much water that's used. So we're excited about that. I'll take a breath and see if I'm missing something else. Look at all these pages and
Pages of stuff, and you know, it's like a lot of things. We're not where we should be, but we're a lot further along than we were. We're moving on. Tell me what folks can do to help support those efforts and support you, Holly, because I know you've taken a lot of leadership in this. And just a minute.
Simply what I would say is that first thing is when the sustainability plan rolls out, it'd be great to have y'all at our meeting to say, to ask questions about it, but also to say good job, because that wasn't an easy thing for staff to step out on and do. So an affirmation would be great, as well as some critical questions I think would be good too. I'm hoping that down the road you can find ways that we're working with our citizens. It's great that we're doing what we need to do with our own house, but I think our next plan is to work with citizens, and I'm hopeful that down the road that the whole idea of PACE might come back. So working with us as we kind of find these incentives for our citizens to reduce their carbon footprints, I think that's the next best thing. You can always email me and I'll keep you up to date with what we're doing.
Thank you so much, Holly, for the leadership. And I do want to encourage everybody to show up and support. I think one of the things we generally don't do is celebrate nearly enough and give ourselves kudos and mark our successes. I want to invite Mark Case up now. Is Mark Case here? Hello. Okay, first of all, who even knew that we had a local chapter of the AFL-CIO? Not me. Because, I grew up in Western North Carolina. Come here for me. I grew up in North Carolina and Western North Carolina and Gastonia. And I remember, I know about the labor history in the South, so I'm thrilled to know that you're here. Tell me what your group is doing to help us create local solutions to this global climate crisis.
Well, I appreciate being able to come out here and talk to you today. And the labor unions in Western North Carolina, we're about 4,000 strong, various different labor unions. But labor has always been involved with safety, not only worker safety while you're on the job, but the families that go home. So we've always been very involved with that. IBEW right now is taking the lead on doing community activist work and trying to get with AB Tech and on solar issues, because a lot of their workforce installs that.
What is IBEW?
International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. But you've got various unions and they're all working on environmental issues too, because we keep our families safe and our workers safe. But the biggest thing that we're doing and the community at large can do is buy American-made products. And let me tell you why. Because the unions through the years, we spearheaded during the manufacturing of all products, cars, textiles, you name it. We've put safety precautions in that, not only for the workers, but for the people that purchase them. Now, you've got this big bash going on to get rid of labor unions. You know why? They're moving the jobs overseas, folks. We made it safer to make materials and make things over here, and we can make them at the same price that they can be made anywhere in the world. It's the profit margin and who's getting it. And that's where you get into the big CEOs and salary levels. But if we don't keep buying American-made and refusing to buy overseas products, we're still going to be safe in the United States as long as the unions are here. But China, look at them. You got child labor law violations going on over there, and the manufacturing process goes up in the air and it floats over here. So we destroy ourselves if we don't keep these jobs over here and we don't always purchase American-made products.
Thank you so much. That's a very powerful point, and I think one of the things it really illustrates is that, you know, like the climate, which envelops all of us, this issue can bring all of these movements, and it, you know, shows that health and labor and justice and environment are not separate issues, but all one issue, and that's one of the things I really appreciate about Moving Planet and about 350.org. 350.org is the organization that created Moving Planet as an international event. It has done events every year since 2007. You will see if you got your picture taken today, and you may be there because they really showcase how big this movement is. And it's real easy to think that we're not getting anywhere fast enough, but I just want you to think back to where the conversation was 10 years ago in 2000, 20 years ago in 1990, and where it is now. And it's a very, very powerful movement forward. I want to thank Jim Barton for that that concept the other night. Chaz, come forward. Chaz has been one of the leaders with Transition Asheville. Tell us more about what Moving Planet is doing today.
Moving Planet will have 3 different venues. We are moving with bicycle caravan. Asheville on Bikes is moving some of us over to the Burton Street community, and there at the Burton Street community we'll be hearing from Green Opportunities, from Dan Leroy, and we will be hearing from one of my friends in Transition Asheville, from Dylan Riles Hamilton, and finally we'll be hearing also from Ron Martin Adkins about how solar panels are being negotiated for the Burton Street community over there. So my interest in that is to see how a community, how a neighborhood rather, can lower its footprint, its carbon footprint. And then we'll wish the bike caravan and others who are traveling by other multimodal transportation methods over to UNCA for the Flip the Switch concert that they're doing over there from 3 until 11. With also a wonderful lineup of speakers. So that's what's happening.
This is just going to be a fun day all over town. I can't wait to get over to Burton Street myself. Thank you, everybody. As you're going, make it over to Burton Street, please remember to bike, walk, or take the bus, or all 3. Or carpool. Or carpool. That's right, you can carpool. And so here we go. Here's the kickoff event, and let's take off. Woo!
So I wrote this song last year while the BP oil project was spewing almost 5 million barrels of crude oil into the Gulf of Mexico. This was about halfway through. And after the most visible effects from that disappeared, the media also disappeared. So we haven't heard much about it. But I read that just yesterday BP applied for permission to start drilling deep water wells in the Gulf of Mexico again. A scene like this, what could be said? What words can touch the pain? So much, so many, how could this be? Will we ever stop the poison rain? Sad enough then to bear to hear the drivel of the banter front line. Will it reach the shoreline? Will we have to watch? Will the tar balls gunk the bottom line? It's our lives, it is life, it is love here at stake. We are bound, we are called to our hearts. It is you, it is me, we are blessed and we're free to respond. knowledge overflow. What mercenaries lurk within me now? Time to say no, time to say yes, time to speak and live it as a vow. It's our lives, it is life, it is love here at stake. We are bound, we are called to our hearts. It is you, it is me, we are blessed and we're free to respond. Leaving love in our there's a wondering preparation for a work there is to do, a cry from our mother dear earth. There's a knowing inside who we are, why we're here. The question is, what will we birth? It's our lives, it is life, it is love here at stake. We are bound, we are called to our hearts. And we're free to respond. In our lives, it's all life, it is love here at stake. We are bound, we are called to our hearts. It is you, it is me, we are blessed and we're free to respond. Leaving love in our way. Leaving love in our way. Leaving love in our way. Leaving love.
Part of it is not just education, but hopefully creating some movement towards policy change, so that there is recognition at every level of government and in every organization that does any kind of environmental work that this has to be the guiding priority, that everything we must do must power down, must move off in another direction. And if we work together, this can really work. We can really do this. Several other places in town today called Moving Planet. It's a 350.org event. 350 is a number that scientists have come to about climate change. If we want to have the earth where we've grown all this good agricultural stuff and are able to have that earth for our children and grandchildren, then we don't need to have more than 350 parts per million of carbon in the atmosphere. Right now we have 392. So 350, 392. Moving Planet is about moving ourselves in ways that don't create so much carbon in the atmosphere, but Moving Planet is also about moving our politicians to address this problem. I know they have so many more important things to do in Washington, but they should think about our home. Anyway. So I have a few, my interest, I'm with Transition Asheville, and my interest is really in how neighborhoods can work together so that they can reduce their carbon footprint. Moving Planet is all about reducing carbon footprint. We have been tied together with the downtown rally that they just had by Asheville on Bikes that has come to the Burton Street Fair. Thank you so much for all of their work to get here. And after a few remarks on stage by Dan Leroy of Green Opportunities and my friend Martin Atkins and Dylan Riles Hamilton, we're going to send that bike caravan off to UNCA, where there's yet another part of this Moving Planet Asheville event. So if you're curious about that, anybody who's wearing this blue t-shirt, they'll be able to answer some questions about that. But let's get started with a few speakers. I'd like to welcome to the stage Dan Leroy. from Green Opportunities. He's the co-founder of Green Opportunities, as many of you know. And I wanted to ask Dan about how Green Opportunities got started and what kind of work it does to help reduce carbon load in the atmosphere.
Okay, and at the time, the church was so inefficient that the pastor of the church thought that someone was literally siphoning oil out of the tank because they were going through it so quickly. And we got underneath the church in the crawl space and realized that the duct system was completely disconnected. And what we did through that project was we trained about 12 young people from this neighborhood to fix those ducts and to insulate that crawl space, and had a dramatic effect on the conservation, the energy efficiency of that building. And really, that project became the seminal project for our organization and for the programs that we run today. So really what we try to do in our neighborhood-based approach is look at projects that are going to have a real meaningful impact on the community on a neighborhood scale, while creating opportunities for people in that neighborhood, and at the same time having an impact on the environment. And everything that we do now as an organization is really based on that principle. So since then, we have a program now that's in its 6th cycle. We run 2 cycles per year, and really that program goes throughout this neighborhood and other neighborhoods, low-income neighborhoods in the city, doing projects that have an environmental impact, that empower communities, and train those individuals who are part of the program with the skills that they need to go out and get jobs in the green economy. We realized going into that program that there's a lot of work that needed to be done in these communities to make people's homes more energy efficient. And so we developed a program that we call the Weatherization Assistance Training Team, or WAT. And there's some folks back at our booth here today that are telling people about how they can get free weatherization services, and people from their own neighborhoods will be the ones that are out there doing it. So now we've got one of the young men who was playing drums up here earlier. He grew up in this neighborhood. Not only was he with us weatherizing the church, but now he's the crew leader, teaching other folks about how to weatherize people's homes. And we've weatherized so far about 80 homes in this neighborhood and in the east, kind of south, to the east side, East Riverside neighborhood as well in Asheville.
Well, to open up people's eyes to how important this is, and to show them different means, we're going to be having the caravans, and if you walk, you bike ride, you take a bus, anything you can to get from point A to point B, and we hope to give people the opportunity to learn what's available in Asheville.
Up this morning, something inside of me told me this would be my day. I heard the morning train, I felt the wind change. Too many times I'm on my way. Come on, sunshine, what can you show me? Where can you take me to make me understand? The wind can shake me, brothers forsake me. The rain can touch me, but can I touch the rain? When I saw the sunrise above the cotton skies, like a candy came to life. I saw the mailman, I saw the businessman, I saw the only road in sight. And then I got to thinking, what makes you want to go? To know the wherefore and the why. So many times now, oh Lord, I can't remember if it's September or July. Come on, sunshine, what can you show me? Where can you take me to make me understand? The wind can shake me, brothers forsake me. The rain can touch me, but can I touch the rain? try. It's in the sun above, it's in the one you love. You'll never know the reason why. Come on, sunshine, what can you show me? Where can you take me to make me understand? The wind can shake me, brothers forsake me. The rain can touch me, but can I touch the rain? So much to lose, so much to gain.
So when I think about Moving Planet Day, I think about the ways in which we move around our communities and around the world, and the fact that that's going to have to change at some point in the near future. And we need to be learning about traveling differently. We need to be practicing traveling differently. We need to walk more. We need to ride our bikes. We need to get on public transit. We need to advocate for the infrastructure that will allow that kind of movement to happen in an efficient way, in a cost-effective way. We need to divorce ourselves from our cars to the extent that we can. We need to be building a better infrastructure for long-term or long-distance travel. So building our train infrastructure, creating a better bus infrastructure. Don't know what that looks like, but we need to not be getting in our cars by ourselves to drive across the state for a meeting, or having options for other ways to get around. That's just going to be critical to our future. I think we will get there in a couple of ways. This would be a massive social change, and that happens usually from a groundswell of support and calls for change from the community and from people, but it also has to rely on change at the political level. It has to change, it depends on reallocation of funds. It depends on creating new sources of funding to create the transportation infrastructure we need. And frankly, it takes political will and vision on the part of our elected officials to understand where we need to go and to commit to get us there.
Well, good evening, UNCA. We've got a beautiful night out here to listen to some people talking about some really important stuff and hearing some great music too. I want to thank everyone for making the decision to come out today and support this event that brings greater awareness to the energy crisis that our world faces today. And more importantly, let today be a call to action for all willing and able people to get involved in tackling this problem of monumental proportions. For the truth is, we are addicted to oil. And wouldn't you know it? It turns out that burning massive amounts of fossil fuel ain't so good for us, or the planet, or our future. Science tells us that such activity accelerates the temperature of our planet, which in turn causes more extreme weather, which in turn causes catastrophic environmental disasters, such as what we've seen in Pakistan, China, Brazil, and at home in North Dakota, Texas, and Vermont. But the worst beyond imagination is yet to come. You would think that upon hearing such news from 98% of climate science experts around the world, Americans would wake up and do the sensible thing by taking immediate steps to circumvent this crisis. Weaning ourselves off of oil, establishing strict emission standards, making radical changes to our lifestyle, and investing in the education, infrastructure, and policies for renewable clean energy to fuel our future. Tragically though, this isn't happening. You see, big oil is deeply entrenched in our politics, our economy, and our lives. Big oil seems dead set on doing nothing substantial about this crisis, as they rake in tens of billions of dollars on a quarterly basis. With an army of 800 lobbyists, Big Big Oil spent over $146 million last year buying off our politicians and shaping energy policies on a local, state, and national level. Big Oil is the modern-day Goliath, and we, the people, are David. And we have our work cut out if we ever hope to reduce the greenhouse gases in our atmosphere to an acceptable level of 350 parts per million. Addressing the energy crisis will require millions of Americans to join in solidarity with those around the globe. It will require that we get active, protest in the streets, overwhelm our representatives and the media with letters, emails, and phone calls. And yes, even risk arrest in acts of civil disobedience if we ever hope to avoid the worst of climate change. Thankfully, we live in a country where this is possible. The birth of our nation, the end of slavery, the women's right to vote, and the civil rights movement are but a few examples of how the people fought power and money with truth. We can do this, and it's our moral responsibility to do so. I'd like now to ask to take a few moments of silence to acknowledge and send our thoughts and prayers to the courageous youth who are protesting right now and committing civil disobedience for the past week on Wall Street to take back America from corporate fascism. Thank you. I have great hope when I see our youth rising up and taking on the injustices that exist in our country, and there are many. It will be impossible to resolve our energy crisis without also reining in the unprecedented powers of corporations. I'm sorry, Mitt Romney, my friend, but corporations are not people, and it's imperative that we overturn Citizens United. The ability for corporations to spend freely in our political system, and consequently, free to destroy our planet. My life forever changed on April of 2010 when the Deepwater Horizon exploded and released an estimated 5 billion barrels of crude oil into the pristine Gulf waters. We all watched in horror as the oil gushed freely from the faulty well. Not long after, we saw the photos of the dead, oil-soaked pelicans, turtles, crabs, and fish. We listened to the angry and shocked Gulf Coast communities whose livelihood disappeared and the land and the sea that they loved destroyed in an instant. We witnessed the pitiful response of Big Oil, the cheap booms, the workers wiping up the oil on the blackened beaches with paper towels, and the release of millions of gallons of deadly dispersants that covered up the crime scene. We heard the callous indifference of Big Oil, who failed to take responsibility and minimize the consequences of their negligent actions. Then, equally disappointing, if not more, President Obama, after saying he was going to kick some ass, surprised us all when he suddenly unfurled his own mission accomplished banner and told us that the crisis was over, when we all knew that was a lie. And since the single worst oil spill in the history of the petroleum industry, not one single law has been passed to prevent this tragedy from ever happening again. That is unacceptable. The Gulf oil crisis was my tipping point. I was fed up that the environment and those who care deeply about it continue to get the short end of the stick. I was fed up with those who think they have a right to do as they please without considering how their actions affect others and the future of generations to come. I was fed up with Big Oil valuing corporate profits over the health and well-being of all living beings in our planet. I was fed up that the most powerful nation in the world, the United States of America, was doing little to nothing to address the realities of energy crisis. It was in this moment that I vowed to use my body, my mind, and my soul to create real changes in the moral conscience of Americans. It was in this moment that I became an activist. Last month, my call to action arrived when I went to Washington, D.C., and I was arrested in an act of civil disobedience in front of the White House in order to protest the Keystone XL pipeline. Thank you. Bill McKibben, founder of 350.org, was leading 2 weeks of protests that would ultimately lead to the arrest of 1,252 people from all over the country. The protests succeeded in their efforts to greatly increase the public's awareness of the Canadian tar sands and the Keystone XL pipeline, and to mobilize people into action. We stood in front of the White House because we wanted to speak directly to President Obama, who has found himself in the most precarious of positions. For he alone has the sole power to issue or not issue the required permit to build the 1,700 miles of pipeline that will carry the dirtiest oil in the world from Alberta, Canada to the Gulf of Mexico. He doesn't need to compromise or make backroom deals with our dysfunctional Congress. He doesn't need to deal with the climate deniers. It's all on him. I committed civil disobedience because it's imperative that President Obama finally do the right thing and say no to the Keystone XL pipeline. I'm just kind of curious, of the people that are out there, if I could have a show of hands, how many people out there are aware of the Keystone XL pipeline issues? Awesome. And how many of you were aware of the pipeline because of the protests that happened in D.C.? And how many out there just don't have a clue what I'm talking about? Great, great. Well, if you don't know, Big Oil's at it again. This time the victim is the pristine Canadian boreal forest, home to 180 billion barrels of tar sand oil and the second largest concentration of carbon in the world. Ultimately, all our planet will pay a steep price for this environmental nightmare. What Big Oil won't tell you is that the boreal forest accounts for 25% of the Earth's remaining intact forest, an area larger than the Amazon basin. The boreal forest is home to the world's largest population of wolves, grizzly bears, lynx, and moose, as well as such endangered species as the woodland caribou and the whooping crane. The trees and wetlands provide vital breeding grounds for billions of songbirds and waterfowl. These animals have no voice to protect their home. And if the project is allowed to come to fruition, an area the size of Florida will be destroyed for thousands and thousands of years. And for what? To fuel our insatiable appetite for consumption. The tar sands oils takes intensive amounts of energy to extract. To make 1 barrel of tar sand oil, you need 4 tons of the Earth's soil. You need 4 barrels of water from the Athabasca River and up to 1,500 cubic feet of natural gas. The energy needed to make tar sand oil is enough energy to provide water for a city of 2 million people and to heat 3 million homes. And then there's the climate. The production of tar sand oils creates 3 times the greenhouse gas emissions than conventional oil. By 2015, the tar sands are expected to emit between 108 and 126 million tons of greenhouse gases annually into our shared atmosphere. That's more than half the annual carbon dioxide emissions of the state of New York. And you can't make tar sand oil without creating highly toxic waste. The tar sands have already produced 65 square miles of toxic sludge that are held in tailing ponds so huge they can be seen from outer space. This toxic waste, comprised of arsenic, carcinogens, and other harmful poisons regularly leaks into the Athabasca River that the indigenous First Nation people of Canada who live downstream depend upon for their livelihood. Because of this, they can no longer drink the water and eat the fish, and now face unprecedented rates of cancer in their community. The Keystone XL pipeline is planned to go through the heartland of our nation and pass through Nebraska's Ogallala Aquifer, one of the world's largest underwater reservoirs that supplies clean water to much of the Midwest. Now, Big Oil says, you got nothing to fear. We got the best technology to prevent a spill. Do you believe them?
No!
Hell no, I don't believe them.
Hell no.
In the past year, the current pipeline, a much smaller version of the XL, has already spilled a dozen times. We are, and this is kind of sad that we got to wake up to this, we are the largest consumers of this dirty oil on the planet. 60% of the 1.34 million barrels of oil, of tar sands oil, produced daily is exported to the U.S. This fulfills, check this out, this fulfills a mere 4% of our domestic oil needs. That is worth repeating. We are causing irreversible damage to our planet for 4%. The construction of the Keystone XL pipeline will increase in production threefold to a whopping 3.5 million barrels per day. And that's about 10% of our domestic use. If approved, the pipeline will literally lock the United States into reliance on this high carbon fossil fuel for decades. Dr. James Hansen, the leading NASA climate expert, says that if this were to happen, it is surely game over for the climate. That's right, game over. So, the time has come, now more than any time in our history, to create an economy based on clean, renewable energy sources.
Woo! Yeah!
The Green Revolution, which I promise will not be televised, will be a movement of the people who understand that what we do to the earth, we also do to ourselves.
Yeah!
For a fundamental level, there is no difference between nature and humanity. This cannot be repeated enough. There is only oneness, one planet, one interdependent web of life. When you disrespect, desecrate, or kill any part of that oneness, you also disrespect, desecrate, and kill a part of you and our children and all the generations to come. It is not a coincidence that the health of our environment rapidly deteriorates. So too, our culture is sick with addictions, violence, and diseases of the body and the mind. If we are to survive as a culture, as a species, we must collectively awaken to the truth of oneness. I'm inspired by Bolivia, who has taken bold steps to add to their constitution the inherent rights of Mother Earth. This includes the right to life and to exist, the right to pure water and clean air, the right for Mother Earth not to be polluted, and the right not to have cellular structure modified or genetically altered. And likely the most controversial, Mother Earth has a right to not be affected by mega infrastructure and development projects that affect the balance of ecosystems and the local inhabitant communities.
All right.
This is my vision for America, for all nations, for my children and all children, for all life on the planet, and for all unborn generations to come. Such a dream will only come to be when the people collectively say it's time, rise up, and make it happen. I say that time is now!
Yeah!
our collective voices become so loud that we can no longer be ignored. Let us hold President Obama accountable to his promise to slow the rise of the oceans and to begin to heal the planet. We will never give up this fight, for we have truth and love on our side. Thank you very much.
Another round, my friend. Another question tossed. What to do when all you ever wanted for is lost? Do you try to get it back again, regardless of the cost? I see you in despair. I feel your soul lay bare. I hear you struggling. I'm with you wondering. It all seems so strange, headed for the change. Welcome to the funhouse, all of mirrors, theater in the round. Chaos paints the picture as mother claims her
come to me. I am life. Your feet.
The dreams of carefree childhood, that fairness would abide. The good guys 1 in 30. Leaders never lied. Is there more that we can learn from all those tears that we've cried? Walk sees from above, snake from down below. I hear you struggling, I'm with you wondering. When the pain's too much, deeply out of touch, we can choose the change. What lies deep in your cave that no one's ever seen? What would that mean? What would it say? You're a new way. It's a funhouse all of mirrors, divinity all around. Paints the picture as mother claims her ground.
I know you. You're safe here. It's okay to relax. Let go your stuff. You can be who you are. Welcome to the state of grace.
Thank you.
This event is important to me because I think it's really important for people to get together in unity and solidarity and speak out and speak their voice. We have become, in a very, very short amount of time, dependent on fossil fuels and many other implements of destruction that are undoubtedly causing irreparable harm to the biosphere, to the planet. And there are many of us who know that it's absolutely unnecessary and that we should not be dependent on these things to live our daily lives. And so it's important for us to get together and make a stand and speak our truth.
And so we did. We planted the Tree of Peace here on the UNCA campus. and many people got to participate in it, and we formed a circle around it and basically give thanks. You know, they say in the Longhouse tradition that gratitude is the beginning of knowledge and understanding. And for the young people, they would say it again. They would say, gratitude is the beginning of knowledge and understanding. And so here we are on this celebration of the autumnal equinox, celebrating our cultural transformation, our ecological transformation, our atmospheric transformation, every kind of way possible. We need to transform ourselves into a living future. You know, part of the life force of this planet, that we need to become identified with this life force, because without it, we might find out that we're going to arrive where we're headed. And it doesn't look like such a soft landing, does it? And so, in this spirit of gratitude, I would like to suggest that we have some good people, some good archetypes, if you will, to look to in indigenous cultures as a way forward. That we don't have to completely rediscover everything from the beginning. We can take advantage of some of the elder cultures. And the one culture that that I've been speaking about, the Haudenosaunee people, the Iroquois people of the Longhouse, you know, they have a person in their culture who is known as the peacemaker. And as many of you may know, the history of the Haudenosaunee people was not always peaceful. They gave us an expression in English. Probably many of you know the expression of burying the hatchet. Well, it turns out that when the peacemaker came to the indigenous people there, he said, you know, I have a better way. And this better way was to literally bury the hatchets underneath the great white roots of peace. And you'll still hear this phrase being used among some of the indigenous on this great Turtle Island continent. And this is the tree. The tree of peace is known as the white pine tree. And this tree is also medicine. If you know of anyone who is afflicted with depression, they can go and lean their back against a white pine tree. And they might find that their depression has dissolved away. And so this peacemaking is something that I think permaculture is ultimately about. Even though it's mostly talked about in terms of, you know, ecosystem design and symbiosis and biomimicry and all of these good things, we need to broaden it to include what is a permanent culture? How do we get to a sustainable culture? Do we do it with the technologies that we have now? We can already see the impacts of these technologies. And we know that we're, you know, more full of heart, more full of compassion than that. You know, the three words that really jump out at me from what the scenario that's evolving now are compassion, ethics, and ecology. And so if we open up our hearts with compassion and we do what's right, not just for our two-legged species, but for all of the living beings on this great Mother Earth, then we will come back into a relationship. We will come back into balance. But we can't leave anyone out. We can't leave anything out. We have to find ways to reach out to those who are still sleeping and say, give them a gentle nudge and say, hey, you know what? It might be time to wake up. And indeed, it is, especially on a day like today.
So this is an instrumental called Return of Joy. joy.
But America's nuclear future. Well, I did some work getting prepared, and then I realized it really boils down to we don't know for the most part. What our nuke future is going to be will depend on each of you here, people you know, and the efforts we make. We are in a really, really tough situation right now. I don't need to tell you about Fukushima. Everybody's heard about 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl. We go down the list. But there's, on one hand, there's good news and there's bad news, and that's what my summary is about. The bad news is we have a nuclear future for about 250,000 years. We don't know what to do with the waste we've got right now, let alone create more. There is no way to deal with the current waste. And that's what Tom Colson was speaking about earlier today. The Blue Ribbon Commission on America's so-called nuclear future. The possibility of Sandy Mush area being one of the long-term repositories, and the really critical danger of tens of thousands of metric tons of high-level radioactive waste being shipped through Asheville. We are at the crossroads of the nuclear industry, and it's a whole thing to look into, but it's crucial. We have that problem. So the answer, as best as we have right now, to that problem is don't make any more. Stop now. No new nukes. No more nukes. This is critical from environmental, economic, and social justice standpoints. And I won't go into all of them. Trust me, look into it. There is also, beyond just saying no, you know how that worked for Nancy Reagan, don't? Well, some of us remember that. Not just saying no to new nukes, but there is an interim, reasonable, practical, in-between solution that is on the table now called HOSS, H-O-S-S, Hardened On-Site Storage. Look into it. You're college students here. You've got access to this information. HOSS. It basically means leave the high-level waste where it is for now in hardened on-site locations. Oh, that was good jalapeno, I'll tell you. Leave it where it is until we actually come up with something to do, some process, some location with this high-level waste. It is beyond lunacy to be shipping all this material around the nation, one time to here, for interim storage to here, to back to here. It's insane. Leave it where it is for the interim while we come up with a rational plan. And that's much, much better than what the Blue Ribbon Commission is looking at right now. So that's the bad news. We have an intractable problem with the current situation. Now, there's good news about nukes. Who would ever think that Doyle would say that? What? Good news. Siemens in Germany has pulled the plug on all their nuke programs. They're not doing it anymore. Some people know, making those, they know, oh, this is big. Well, it also pulls the plug, at least at this point in time, on the Russian program for building more nukes in Africa, because they were counting on Siemens. There's more good news. Germany itself is backing out of the nukes. 17 nukes are going offline in the next 10 years. They're leaving it behind. We know what happened in Japan. That's a no-brainer. They're moving in that direction. France is looking at nukes again. This has been the poster child for nukes. Moody's Moody's Financial Investment, whatever the company, Moody's and whatever the rest of the name is, it was a little tiny byline. Just last week, they downgraded South Carolina's energy company for their plans for building new nukes. They went down because Moody's said, basically, you can't afford it, you can't pay for it, and you don't need it. It's coming together. The economics seem to be the thing. But it will not happen if we don't all continue pushing for the right thing to happen, to end it. So that new nukes are not a foregone conclusion anymore. 5 years ago, I would not be this optimistic. But it depends on everyone, as many people as possible, getting active, understanding this, and getting involved with it. Now maybe with these folks with the hula hoops here are going on their iPhone to look up what Haas is all about. Maybe not, but maybe they are.
Probably.
It's up to the youth. You look around right now, the relative handful of people right here. We have a significant age disparity on the quad right now. You guys are either under 25 or, bless me friends in my age group, over 50.
Yeah.
Where's the in-between? It's up to you to pick up unbury the tomahawk, let's say. Sorry about that, Paul. Unbury the hatchet and get on the warpath. You will be inheriting the future if these things continue going along. If we let the pipeline and tar sands go through, you are going to bear the worst of the burden of all these impacts. And it's with nukes, it's not just the fallout. It's not just the cancer and mutations. It's the economic impact. How many trillions of dollars would somebody guess we've already lost to taxpayers only, not ratepayers, on nuke programs in the United States? Guess, yell something out.
2 billion.
2 trillion. 2 billion, I hear 2 trillion. Over $4 trillion has gone to nukes in the history of the programs. And right now, we hear in the Tea Party and all these other guys, 500 billion is earmarked for nukes over the next 10 years. That is 1/3 of everything, more than 1/3 of what the so-called super committee is looking to cut from our, so no health care, no social security, no benefits, no disaster aid. You can pay for it all by taking the nukes off the books. It's the economic impact of this that's insane. And Bob mentioned it, I think, the disparity. It is about as close to, depends how you do the math, it's almost 1,000 to 1 in terms of dollars and jobs, the investments you put into nukes compared to green technology, energy efficiency, and so on and so forth. And I'm pretty sure I'm getting close on my time here, but the cost is absolutely insane. We cannot afford it, even if you don't care about social justice. Even if you don't care if you're going to turn into a mutant and can't have kids. Even if you don't care about nuclear war. We can't afford it. The money's too much. And I'll close out with one thing. How many people have heard in the news that a lot of the conservative right-wingers all up in arms about Solendara, the solar company that defaulted on the $500 million? All right, Paul, you heard that? All right. Two things about it. Number one, they're howling over this. We need to investigate this and so on. The reason that company went down and folded was because the price of solar has crashed in the last 5 years. They were going for a high-end market. There's much more to it. They were going for the Cadillac, and all of a sudden the prices are down to Fiats and Volkswagens and all that. They lost out because they were going for too expensive a market. And at the same time that these people are calling for an investigation of Solendara and a loan for $500 billion is on the line to be lost for the nuke plants and dirty energy. 10 times over. Let's investigate that before we worry about one solar company that goes down. Let's investigate Halliburton for stealing $2 billion before we worry about one solar company that went under. So the future is up to you folks here. You're the future generation. You got to pick up after us. And I just beg, I hope, and I'll pray that out of this crowd here, if only 5 of you get involved, we've done our job today. Put down your hula hoops and get busy, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for the future.
Hello, my name is Macon Foscue. I'm one of the co-presidents of Active Students for a Healthy Environment here at UNCA. Today we're having an event called Flip the Switch. It's to celebrate Moving Planet Day, which is a worldwide day of action around the world. I don't know how many nations, but a lot. And we're all coming together for climate action and awareness and raising the consciousness of people who really have the power to make a change. And that's one of the reasons I'm here. I really want to, it's one of my goals to help people understand how their lives relate to what they hear in the news or destructive energy practices when they waste energy. I want to make the connections. I want to help people make the connections. So that's why we're having this event. We've got lots of speakers to help people make those connections, talking about different issues such as nuclear waste in Western North Carolina, permaculture, collaboration, all sorts of different areas that are all connected with the solution. The solution is the connections, I feel. Once we realize that mountaintop removal mining up in West Virginia, where they blow the tops off mountains just to get the coal seams underneath, is connected to when we flip the switch on our light and leave it on instead of turning it off when we leave the room. That's when we realize that we need to change our habits, our energy use in order to improve the world. And our world is in dire need of us changing our ways. But it's not something we have to do by ourselves. It's something that we need to do together, I feel. One person can go a long way, but when you're all together, it's really not, it's not too hard. There's mutual support, and the reasons you're doing it are very clear because they're reinforced every day. So I'm really hoping to inspire people to realize that we all need to work together. It's not something that the environmentalists only need to work on, or the scientists only need to work on. This is something that every single person living on Earth needs to work on, because this is our Earth, and if we don't take responsibility for it, no one will. That's us, that's you, that's me. We all need to do this. Thank you.
Hello everyone. I want to thank you all for coming. Thank you so much for coming and supporting Ash and Mountain Protectors. This is a really important event for us. It's great to see all these smiling faces. It really touches me that you all care enough to come. So I want to talk a little bit about harmony and its role in the environmental movement. Harmony is when people are working together, complementing each other, just really hitting it from all different sides, and that's really what we need to do to overcome the issues and the crises that we are facing today. So we need people doing sustainable agriculture, we need people working on energy policy, we need people working on all the fronts that there are. So there's not one solution. There's a bunch of different solutions that all fit into the one view of the world that we need to see come to fruition. And really the only way that's going to happen is we've got to completely change our culture. And I'm not talking about a bad change, I'm talking about a great change. I'm talking about more community, more joy, and more potlucks. And I'm also talking about more music. We need to sing. We need to sing in our daily activities. All the indigenous people, they sing during their daily routines. They just sing. And they feel connected. And that's what we need to do. We need to bring back song. And walk around and sing, please. And don't care if people look at you funny. Because they're the crazy ones. I also want to talk about something I've realized the past 4 months. Ever since Power Shift in April, I've really decided that I want to take a stand for my values and really be an activist through and through, and just see every opportunity that I have to talk to people or network with people and make that part of my life. And for the most part, I feel like I've succeeded. But the thing about it is, I haven't had to give up anything, really. I really haven't. I haven't given as much as I've received, I would say. So when you take that step to make a change and your life and try and make a change in other people's lives and talk to people about issues you care about, what you give is what you receive. So I encourage you all to go home from this event and talk to people that don't know, that don't understand, help them understand. And what you get from that is worth more than what you're giving them. I sincerely believe that. So thank you so much for coming. This is my friends Matthew Harmon and Logan McKnight, and we're just gonna have a good time with some music. Thank you.
It don't mean a thing if you ain't got that swing. Gone with the people, it's gone home. Some say it's gone with the people, it's gone. Some say it's gone with the people on home. We say it'll come with the people on home. Some say it lies in the hearts of none. Some say it lies in the hearts of none. We say it lies in the hearts of all. We say it lies in the hearts of all. Say it'll all be over before this change. Some say it'll all be over before this change. We say the time is now for change. Open your eyes, look up, my friends, and strain.
My name's Elizabeth Goyer. I'm a co-chair of Active Students for a Healthy Environment. I have learned through this experience that it is a really bad idea to organize an event and also decide you're going to be a speaker at the event. So I had no time this week to actually figure out what I was going to say, so I did it about an hour ago. So here goes. Bear with me. It won't be very long. And thank you for still being here and for paying attention. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about why I do what I do, why I'm a student activist, how this event actually came together, and what we're raising money for and why it's important. So I became involved in environmental activism about 3 years ago when I went to a national conference called Power Shift. Who's been to Power Shift? Yeah, it's super sweet. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Power Shift, here's what happens. 10,000 college students come to DC for a weekend to hear excellent speakers, workshops, panels, learn how to organize, learn how to do direct action. Everything a young person who knows they care but doesn't know how to make a difference needs to experience. And above all, you get that feeling of actually sitting in a room with 10,000 other people who are as angry and frustrated and have felt as hopeless as you have, and you get to understand how that feels and you share that. It was really amazing. So at that conference, I got plugged into a really great organization called Canary Coalition, and they were organizing a protest in Charlotte Being young and naive, I decided to go down to Charlotte and go get arrested because it sounded cool, and it actually was cool. It was really fun. It was a really good experience. I got to understand what happens to every person who goes through our justice system, and those of you who are familiar with what just happened with Troy Davis, you guys know that it's real messed up, and now I have a personal experience that made me feel that way. Like while I was in jail, I felt this is really messed up, how I'm being treated, how I'm being interrogated about my mental health and all this stuff that should have been my business and not theirs. There were a lot of things about it that really turned me off to the way our government is working and the way we're putting people in jail and the way that a lot of things are happening. So after that, I became really involved with ASH, which is the group on campus that helped put this on. Around the same time, I was taking a class called Environmental Ethics with Grace Campbell, who is an amazing professor here. You guys should all take a class with her if you haven't. And I learned about a concept called ecofeminism, and this really rocked my world. Yeah, I guess it's probably rocked some of your worlds too. So for those of you who maybe aren't as familiar, ecofeminism is not about being a feminazi. It's not about being a feminazi who's an environmentalist too. It's about being a person who understands that our problems all come from one big bottom deep root problem, which is something called a logic of domination. So I'm going to explain that really quick. Basically what that is we are in a system where people look at each other and they look at the earth and they look at the animals and they say, okay, you're like me, you're not, you're different. Now I'm going to assign you a value based on that. I'm going to say that you're worth more than you are, that humans are worth more than the rest of the species on the earth, that white people are worth more than black people, that men are worth more than women, etc. Straight people are worth more than queer. You know, that's the way we've been thinking, and it's all the same. It all comes from the same logic of domination and oppressive system that we've sort of gotten ourselves into. So the question now is, how do we get ourselves out of it? At PowerShift, I got to hear a really amazing speaker activist. His name is Tim DeChristopher. A lot of you are probably a big fan of him. And what he said really, really hit home for me. And he basically said to the group that we're not doing enough. You all as a whole are here and you're not doing enough. And this should be the last time where we're all here together and we leave and we go back to our lives as we knew it. And he said, this isn't something you guys are going to want to hear. This isn't something that's going to make you feel good, but it's not going to be convenient. The things we have to do are not going to be convenient. It's not going to fit into the plan you had for yourself. And I was really thinking about this. I'm a Taekwondo teacher. It's my job. I love it. It's amazing. And for a really long time, I thought that that was what I wanted to do. And now I'm actually lining up to be a high school teacher because that actually got me a lot of money to go to school, and that's how I paid for my school, by being a teacher. And that moment for me when Tim DeChristopher said that it's not going to be convenient and it's not going to be exactly what you want to do was the moment I realized that I want to go work for an environmental nonprofit for the rest of my life. And that's the plan now. I still have to do a year teaching to pay off my scholarship, but after that, my life is going to be devoted to this. And that was really, going to this PowerShift conference was the thing that made me make that choice. So, yeah, but it was really cool. So Ash went to PowerShift. Actually, 50 of us went to PowerShift, and I really want to thank everybody who went. When we went to PowerShift, we were a group of people who were, some of us were friends, some of us were new to Ash, some of us were just environmental studies majors who had been recruited by Ash members, tabling. And when we went, we were a bunch of people who didn't really know each other that well, and we came back as a team. And that was what was really cool, is that we did a movement building training. It worked. Macon Foscue showed up as like this really amazing leader who had been actually really quiet beforehand, and he stepped up and took on a bunch of responsibility. And we actually were able to continue having meetings over the summer every Wednesday. And we also were able to speak at an event called Green Drinks. This event, Green Drinks, was right in the middle of our exam week. I forgot about it. Just like today, I was super unprepared to speak at Green Drinks, but I remembered about 2 hours before I was supposed to be there, and I grabbed a couple friends, and we went, and I talked, and then this amazing woman named Carol walked up to me afterwards, and Carol's over there at the silent auction table, I think, unless she went home because it's late, but yay, she's here. Okay, great. Carol walked up to me, and she said, "You rock. I want to take you out to lunch." And I said, okay, sure, free lunch, that sounds great. week later, we're sitting down eating lunch, talking about, I was talking about my power shift experience, how passionate I was. She was talking about her work with mountain protectors, how concerned she is that her home is being considered for a high-level nuclear waste dump zone. She's passionate about that. I'm passionate about clean energy. And she said, hey, we should co-host a benefit concert. And I was kind of thinking, like, that sounds cool, but I don't know if we can pull it off. And about a week later, I got another email from her saying, hey, so about that benefit concert, I've started putting some things into motion. Let's get rolling on it. And I just kind of got swept along. Beautifully enough, I had the whole ASH team to help me out. So everybody who was in ASH contributed in some way to making this event happen. And we decided that we wanted it to be a benefit for two causes. So stop for a second. Thank you guys so much for donating. It's been really amazing to have all the donations coming in. And now I'm going to tell you, what that's all about. So first off, some of our proceeds are going to go to mountain protectors. What they do is they put on events like this, they go out into the community, and they tell people that our beautiful Asheville, I mean, everyone stop, look at it. Holy shit, it's fucking beautiful. Sorry if there's kids, but I'm sorry, it's just amazing. And it could be, we could be having nuclear waste stored here. There could be an accident where we all have to evacuate. That's our reality, and a lot of people aren't willing to admit that yet because they're comfortable and it's not convenient to think about that type of thing, but it could happen, and it's our job to protect it. So that's what Mountain Protectors does. That's why they're awesome. That's why they helped us co-sponsor this, and that's why I'm so privileged to be working with them. The other thing that your money is going to is towards a really cool thing called the SSREC. When I was at PowerShift, I had a friend of mine who was also somewhat of a mentor say, hey, there's this really cool conference that happens every fall. It's basically like PowerShift, but it's smaller. It's just for the Southeast. And it's called the Student Southeast Renewable Energy Conference. And I think you should be on the planning committee. And I was like, wow, really? Me? Okay. And so I applied, and then a few days later I got a call saying, hey, does UNCA want to host it? And I thought they were kidding, because we're a tiny school, we don't have a lot of space, we don't have a really well-organized infrastructure, I guess. I mean, let me tell you, putting this thing on was crazy. But they wanted us to do it, and I said okay, and I emailed my core team, and they all said okay. And so we will be hosting from November 4th through 6th the Student Southeast Renewable Energy Conference. It's going to be amazing. If you guys are here and you haven't signed in, please see someone with an attendance sheet. If you guys have one, will you wave it up right now? All right, awesome. So it's right there. Please sign in, and if you're interested in registering for the Student Southeast Renewable Energy Conference, you can check a little box and I'll send you some information about it. But it's basically going to be just like the power shift I described, except specifically for the Southeast. So we're going to be focusing on issues that actually affect us here in Asheville directly, such as the nuclear waste transport and deposit zone, such as potential for fracking, such as the fact that our beautiful city is powered by mountaintop removal coal. We're going to get to have, basically the way it's set up on Saturday, we're going to actually learn about all this stuff and become better educated. I know some of us here have been doing this a little while. We might think we know a lot about it, but there's going to be some really great workshops, and there's going to be lots of different options. So if you already know everything about mountaintop removal, but you've never done an anti-oppression workshop, you'll have that opportunity. And then on Sunday, we're really going to focus on being the solution. So we're going to do trainings to learn about how to deal with media, how to get coverage for your events, how to organize protests, how to use Facebook and Twitter. I still don't know how to use Twitter. It's really scary. So we're going to get to learn how to do all that stuff. And I think the coolest part of all of it is that we're going to have a state breakout session. So what that means is that all the students from North Carolina who come to this event, and hopefully there'll be over 100, 150 of them, will all get to sit together in one room. And we did this at PowerShift in the spring. We're going to get to do it again, and we're going to get to organize, and we're going to get to work on our state network. And we're going to be able to take what has been something sort of isolated happening here on campus, where we have all this green energy and all this gardening and all these people doing all this really cool stuff, riding their bikes around, all that stuff. And we'll be able to help spread that through North Carolina. So we're going to be able to support other schools who are trying to form environmental clubs, and we're going to be able to plan statewide actions. So let's say sometime next year, just hypothetically, the Energy Jobs Act, which would allow fracking in North Carolina, is about to get passed. So yeah, that would be awful, and unfortunately the reality is it's probably going to happen. We will be able, instead of just having a call-in day right here at UNCA where 30 or 40 people make phone calls and it makes kind of an impact, we're going to be able to do that on 15 or 20 college campuses across North Carolina. We're going to have the skills to get media coverage on that. So people reading the Citizen Times say, wow, there was a statewide action planned by college students today about this issue, and now I'm going to learn about it. And I think this is why all of this is so important, because as college students, we have more power than we give ourselves credit for. Universities have a ton of buying power. They are some of the biggest consumers of energy and paper in the country, basically. So another thing that's really cool that's going to happen at this SSREC is we're going to come up with a plan to help get our campuses more off of dirty energy. So we're actually, there's a research team right now that's going over all the energy audits from different campuses, and they're going to draft a letter, and I'm sure it won't be perfect by the SSREC, but we're going to keep working on it. And it's basically going to go something like this. We want the chancellors of all of our universities to sign this letter, and it's going to commit to some percentage of renewable energy fueling our campus by a certain date. Now at UNCA, this is not as easy as it might be at a big school like UNC Chapel Hill where they can just go shut down their coal plant. We don't have a coal plant to shut down. We buy our power from Duke and Progress, who are soon to be one. Dukegress, that's what I like to call them. And we're gonna have to put pressure on our chancellors to put pressure on Duke and Progress. And here's how we're gonna do it. We're gonna say, dear Dukegress, please give us this much renewable energy by this time, or we're going to spend all of this money on energy efficiency on campus, and you're not going to get our money either way. So that's our plan right now. I think it's really beautiful that we came up with this a few months ago at a North Carolina Student Energy Network retreat, and at the SSREC, that's going to be our chance to actually spread our plan, our campaign, to all the other schools who come and to actually make it happen. So that's why I'm excited. That's why you guys are here, and now you really know why you're here, because the reason we need all this money to put this conference on is because students are going to be traveling from really far away. There's going to be people coming from Florida, Mississippi, Georgia, Alabama, and they need money to get here. They need money for places to stay, and we're raising it for them. So thank you guys so much for doing your part to help get the Southeast to Asheville so we can all come together for this conference. It's a huge privilege, and it's also a huge responsibility, and that's how I feel about all of this, and I think I'm done talking now. Thanks, y'all.
love the way it's really encouraging and empowering people to be coming up with their own ideas for their own events and their own activities to make something, happen locally. What it shows me, and I think it's a good lesson for lots of people, is that there's no one solution, that there are many ways to get where we want to go to. And you can find a way that works for you and your community that may be totally different than someone in another place. There's a book by Paul Hawken, which you might find interesting, called Blessed Unrest. And as he was traveling around giving lectures, people kept handing him business cards about their little group or their organization or their nonprofit. And what he discovered was that there were people all over the world doing amazing things that was under the radar. People didn't know about it. And so he began to liken this to the Earth's immune system. That just like the body has antibodies that go in the blood to attack viruses and bacteria that are harming the system, the Earth is filled with disease right now with the way it's been structured and the way it's being destroyed. And all of these organizations are the immune system that are bringing the cure, that are bringing the solution. He actually created a website called Wiser Earth. And as of now, he says there are over 1 million organizations around the world who are doing just amazing work, working on ecological sustainability, social justice, human rights, peace, and there are millions of other people working as well. And most of these you've never heard of, but they're still doing great things. Here in Asheville alone, there are over 75 groups, organizations working on sustainable issues, and many others just doing things good for the public. And what I've found in my life, and I've seen it in other people, is when we share with others, we actually create abundance. We actually spread good ideas and talents, and we share our skills with others. It lets it go much faster and much wider. The opposite happens when we hoard. As soon as we start hoarding and feel we don't have enough, we block the flow of energy, and we set up a poverty mentality based on fear. So you all have an amazing golden opportunity right now. We live in a very special time. The world's going through a transformation process that's never happened before. And you can see all around you the paradigms, the old paradigms that have been here for several thousand years are breaking down. The old unsustainable models are collapsing. People are questioning everything. I even saw an article in the Times yesterday that some physicists have done some experiments and have discovered particles that move faster than the speed of light, which is supposedly impossible. And if this is true, it shakes up our whole concept of what is space and what is time. The pace of change is accelerating dramatically, as you obviously may know. I mean, I can remember growing up as a kid, and we had the first black and white TV and 2 channels, real grainy. There were no computers, no cell phones, no internet, no Facebook, no Google. And what you have now are just amazing tools of technology of communication. You can create pictures, write things, videos, and instantaneously share it with millions of people around the world. I mean, that's an incredible tool for change. I just believe that now is the time for all of us to dream really big, to find what is your passion, find what is it that you really care about, that you have juice for, that you want to do, and just go for it. Don't let fear hold you back. We all have a gift. We come into this world to share and to find that gift and begin to live it, to express it, to do it. And it may be teaching, it may be writing, it may be raising kids, it may be doing art, it may be anything. It doesn't matter. You're playing a part in the larger ecosystem that we all play a role in. Times right now are tough for many people. But I met someone just the other day who said something really great about that. He said, it's a wonderful opportunity for all of us.
This is John Myers.
Now we can begin to
speaking.
connect more with people and barter for things, share things, grow food together, spend more time with families and friends that we might not otherwise be doing. For many years I worked with nonprofits and land trusts. And I had many first-hand experiences of the power of collaborating and working with other people. Money was always an issue to have enough to be able to protect the land, but in working with passionate people, with groups, with government agencies, we were able to protect about 20,000 acres of land, and we could never have done it alone. Recently, my wife Jane and I began creating Hickory Nut Forest Eco Community, about 25 minutes southeast of Asheville in Hickory Nut Gorge. and the Laughing Waters Retreat Center. And it just started out with us wanting to protect some land, some beautiful land in Hickory Nut Gorge. And from that small beginning about 5 years ago, we now have 230 acres of land protected, that we're keeping 200 acres of it wild, and a small sustainable community of all green homes, solar homes, an organic orchard and garden, and 15 miles of hiking trails and the new retreat site, Laughing Waters. But we didn't do this alone. I don't take credit for creating all this by myself. I mean, at last count, we added up over 250 people collaborated to help us in various ways in designing, building, creating it, and helping it grow. And over 3,000 people have come out there and have participated in 50 events that we've had so far. And we love having a diversity of ways to get people together. We've had free Apple Fest, healing arts gatherings, wildflower hikes, weddings, seasonal celebrations, and even more fun has been the events that other people have put on, where they've come to us and they've sponsored an event. We had the Eco Tour of Green Homes. We've had Gaia's Yoga Day of 10 local yoga teachers. We had the first National Handpan Gathering of musicians. Muddy Sneakers brings students out from public schools to have classes in the woods. A community garden project, and then various concerts. And I just feel so fortunate and so grateful to be able to be part of something like this. This amazing collaborative process of being with people, working with people, and who have the willingness to work hard and yet make something that's greater than themselves. Finally, I want to invite you all to come to a free event we're having October 15th, Saturday, with Bill McKibben of 350.org. He's going to be the keynote speaker via Skype. And in 3 weeks, we're hosting what's called the first annual Global Transformation Festival. And we've designed this, instead of being a dull, boring conference, as a day of celebration, where you can come out and learn about sustainable solutions. Make a day of connecting with people, building new friendships, open sharing and networking, and it's all free. We've lined up so far 20 presenters to talk on a variety of sustainable topics. These include climate change, renewable energy, organic growing, solar homes, land conservation, community building, natural beekeeping, and more stuff. And we've got some local food vendors, some live music, some kids games, hiking on the creek. So just come out if you're free and have a great day of fun. Finally, whatever work we do in life, and I just believe this totally, we need to remember to keep having fun doing it. Keep laughing, keep celebrating every step that you move forward, because there's no end. You'll never get to the finish line. So just enjoy it every step of the way. So we hope you can make it. And I'd like to end with an Aboriginal prayer that I came across recently. We ask that everything we need be provided for. We ask that everything we do today, say today, hear today, be only in the highest good, in my highest good, in the highest good for all concerned, and in the highest good for all of life, everywhere, throughout the universe. I want to thank all of those of you who put on this event today. This is great. It takes a village. We can't do these things alone. And I want to thank you all for being here and all the great work you're doing now and plan to do in the future. So thank you very much.